heart and she'll never know I love her to skin and bone, heart, bone, sticks and stones, just to let you validate your mercies to
Good evening, everyone. It feels like we're here every day at the moment, but we're back. It is Thursday night. Away Days is back for another fantastic preview as we look at the big game. The two colossals at the top of the league, those two teams that haven't yet conceded a goal, clash on Sunday afternoon live on Sky Sports at St James's Park. But before that, we're just going to do a little bit something slightly different for the first couple of minutes. But as always, I'm joined by one of the Loaded family, and we've got Richie Story in tonight. How are you, Richie?
I'm all right, mate. You?
Not too bad, not too bad. Congratulations on your daughter's A-level results.
Oh, thank you, mate. Cheers.
Getting into her university, absolutely spot on. And definitely well deserved. So I imagine the Story House is very, very happy tonight, celebrating.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit more merry tomorrow, I think, since it's been postponed 24 hours.
Okay, no worries. But hey, let the good times roll. Worked hard enough for it. So yeah, enjoy. But look, before we get our fantastic guest on that's in the green room right now, there has been some news in the last sort of hour or so, and it's moved quite quickly, I've got to be honest. It was Fabrizio Romano came out and said that there was a new bid officially lodged for João Pedro. We talked about João Pedro quite a bit on the Fully Loaded Transfer Show last night. If you haven't checked out, please do. Look at, in particular, the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes Watford podcast that talked in a little bit more detail about João Pedro and what he could maybe offer Newcastle United if he was to sign. But so that bid was lodged, 22 million with 3 million add-ons, if I'm right in thinking. And then within an hour, Richie, that was
not even that.
Yeah, not even that. It was. It came out very quickly that it was flatly rejected, and now Newcastle United are back to square one. Do we go to the 30 million valuation that Watford want, or do we stay as it is and maybe look in another direction? Richie, what your initial thoughts on that as the news is broke?
Well, we just discussed this briefly before we went on air, and it's an interesting one because I think the bid that's gone in is probably a realistic figure in total. I don't think they'll go to the 30 million that Watford want. You know, as we've just discussed, you know, the point that you brought up off air was when you've got people like Morgan Gibbs White going for 44 million to Nottingham Forest when he's barely kicked the ball in the Premier League. It's just Premier League valuation of players has just gone ridiculous. You know, Newcastle putting bids of 40 million in for James Maddison, 45 million, stuff like that. And you start to think, you know, are Leicester in their right mind to demand more? Or is it just bad business by Forest? You know, yeah, and we know they want to make a move in the Premier League this year, and you know, don't want to be looking back to the Championship. But you've got to make the right business decisions, which is what we're trying to find out. Obviously, now we've got a lot more money to potentially splash around, but we want to do it the right way. We don't want to be just throwing money, you know, a bit like as we discussed briefly last night. We don't want to do it Everton and just throw, you know, excess millions here and there on the wrong sort of people and stuff like that. So, you know, you start to think, Forest doing something similar. There's been a couple of really good bits of business they've done, but 44 million for Morgan's Gibb White, who's not really done much for Wolves in the Premier. I think it's just ridiculous, and it's making the prices just skyrocket.
It is. It's those types of deals are the ones that skew the market. I remember the Neymar deal going to PSG many years ago, completely turned the transfer market upside down. If it wasn't for that, prices would be more reasonable even now and even today. That completely threw the market. Deals like Gibbs White is what's going to mess the market up again, and it's going to make it even more difficult for teams like us that are trying to do it by the book. It's going to make it 10 times worse. So,
if you think about it, well, you look at what they've just brought in Mateus Nunes from Sporting Lisbon for the same price as Morgan Gibbs White.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad. I don't get it. I don't get how it's kind of even allowed to happen. Why even Wolves think that is a valuation that's acceptable to pay, but equally or to put out there for Morgan's Gibbs White. But it's even worse that Forest are willing to pay it.
I think that's the worst of the two, because technically you can put any price on it, on any player you want to, and think, oh well, no one's going to pay that. But if someone does prepare to pay it, then that's why you put like release clauses in contract, isn't it? Because you don't think someone's going to pay it. You look at they'll look. Obviously, we've got a guest starting tonight who's just we'll talk about release clause with Erling Haaland. When Dortmund put that in their contract, that Erling Haaland release clause of 50-odd million, they would have thought, oh, that's a fantastic profit that way. We're going to be happy with that. But technically, they could have probably got a hell of a lot more than that, if I'm being honest. Especially when you've got to look at Darwin Núñez has been doing it less time than that, and he's gone for 85 million. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. And look, let's keep with that Erling Haaland energy, because hold that thought on that conversation, because I think it's the perfect opportunity now is to bring in Move from the Noisy Neighbours Man City podcast. Welcome in, Move. How you doing?
Brilliant, lads. How are you?
Hey, Move. You all right, mate?
Yeah, pleasure to be on with the best United in the Premier League.
Get in. I tell you what, you're going to go down well with our guys and girls in the chat saying that. That's a good start, Move. Excellent. But look, it's a pleasure to have you on and join us for our away days preview. Obviously, spoke a few days ago, and it's been great to sort of pencil this in and have you join us. And look, before we talk about sort of more general stuff, which we'd normally maybe start with, I think Richie's made a really good point when we were talking about players being overpriced and sort of release contracts. And Richie talked about Erling Haaland having that release contract. I mean, ultimately, how much do you think? I mean, let's face it, you got a steal for him in terms of how much you actually paid for Erling Haaland. How much do you think he would have been worth without that relief clause? And do you think Man City would have paid it?
Yeah, definitely north of £100 million, in my opinion. I think we had 100 million penciled in for Harry Kane last summer, and Daniel Levy just wouldn't pick up the phone, even at that price. Yeah, I mean, look at the age and the profile, the statistics so far on the kid and his scoring record. I mean, he's undeniable, I think. You compare him to some of the prodigies from a striker perspective. His numbers now are in that class or not, if not better. So, yeah, I think we got a steal. Obviously, the release clause is great. We love a release clause at Man City. We don't like back and forth negotiations. We like it. There's a price, we go and we pay it. Same with Jack Grealish. He had a release clause at 100 million. Don't need to negotiate, straight in. Let's have it. But yeah, obviously we paid money to his agent and to his dad, also a City fan. So yeah, it's more than £51 million. But in terms of a transfer fee, it's brilliant. We probably saved, I don't know, 75 million, something like that.
Yeah. I would agree, Richie. I think you'd agree with that as well. It's that's big money that you guys have saved in the long run. I mean, ultimately, you probably paid that in his, whether it's his wages or whether it's his signing on fee. You've probably paid that sort of money there.
Yep.
They did talk about it was a potential to be a 200+ million pound deal, all in with his contract and all the rest of it. But it's interesting actually. You mentioned that you're a club, Man City, that just you like to have the fee there and you just go and pay it.
Yeah,
you just pay what the player's worth in terms of his value. You go, you get the player, you get out. We're having a bit of an issue at the moment, and there's a bit of a discussion within the Newcastle United fan base at the moment. You heard us more before we went live talking about the João Pedro situation, and we've just talked about it there. And we were talking about Maddison as well, and in terms of the valuations. Is that something maybe that Newcastle, and I'm speaking to, a fellow club that has also been taken over by huge rich owners and have kind of like rebuilt their team. Is that something that maybe Newcastle United need to do a little bit more of, moving forward in terms of, and I'll give you a little bit of context in this. James Maddison, we've had 2 bids rejected for him. I think the first one was 35 million. The second was, I think 40 million or maybe 45 million at max, where it was Leicester were clear they wanted 60 million valuation. We've done the same with João Pedro in terms of playing around with various different fees. We've done the same with the likes of Moussa Diaby at Leverkusen. Is that playing around sort of a bad look for a club, or are we right to sort of haggle? What yes. Your thoughts on that?
It's not a bad look from my perspective or from a City fan's perspective, I would imagine. I think what you got right from the start is bringing in Eddie Howe. I think having the right manager in is bigger than, or it's just a great place to start. And then you start bringing in players that fit an Eddie Howe system, or an Eddie Howe style of play. And the names that you're mentioning, I feel would be good fits at Newcastle. And perhaps comparing City's takeover and subsequent, market activity is a bit different than the situation Newcastle are in, because City had a small window to buy a lot of players before they were under scrutiny with financial fair play, right? We had to get a certain number of bodies in the door before the rules kicked in. Now, I don't know how the rules have changed between then and now, but I imagine that they're tighter, and there'll be a lot of scrutiny on the money Newcastle are spending. So there may not be that window where they have to quickly get as many big names in as they can. So I think it's the Newcastle ownership will have learned, and they'll have looked at how City progressed since their takeover. And because it's been very successful, now that has come with a lot of scrutiny, obviously. But I think it will benefit Newcastle. City having gone through this experience not that long ago and been successful with it. I just think that Newcastle might have to take it a bit more slow than City did. But the names you're being linked with, particularly the manager you've got in, I think is a really good start.
No, I'd be inclined to agree. Richie, Mo's made some really good points there. We although there are a few sort of grumbles in the fan base about spending money and buying certain players, and some people saying just pay the money. Actually, hearing it from an opposition fan saying, actually, the business that you've done, you've got a good manager, you've signed some good players. Should that fill us with a little bit of confidence that actually looking from the outside in that we're doing it the right way?
It's like I said last night, and when we replied that tweet that we got through, that was on. You've got to look back, 12 months. We were a completely different club since then. We were struggling to get, loans for Hamza Chowdhury over the line, and getting the money together for Joe Willock. So you look at how much we've spent now. We've spent more now in the last 12 months than we ever did in the whole of Mike Ashley's era on so you know there's something sometimes it just seems to me that there's no pleasing some of our fan base, you know what I mean? But 90 odd million that we spent in January, and obviously what we spent so far this window, you know, it's got to be a slow process. We've got to do it the right way, as you know, as Mulv said, when there was no FFP or anything like that when they were around, and you know, like we don't want to do an Everton model where we're just going to throw on whoever, because obviously everyone's seen how bad they are now. We've got to do it a little bit similar to how Man City have done it, but in a, you know, we're going to be a bit more frugal with our money when we do. We can't just turn around and say, right, oh, Robinho's near his contract, bang, there's whatever, or you know, like Joe or whatever, your version of Joe, should I say? Do you know what I mean? And then, but, you know, we are going to make mistakes. Every team makes mistakes with signing whatever. But I think with FFP and stuff like that, you've got to turn around. It's what damage you can possibly, the little damage you can do if you are going to make mistakes. Obviously, as I said, 9 times out of 10 when you buy someone, you hope they're going to be a success and go forward. You know, when we signed Joel in, and it looked like after he'd signed, he was going to be an absolutely huge flop. He did pretty much nothing under Steve Bruce, and Eddie Howe gets his hands on him, and he's a completely different player. So it all depends on how you want to go with it. But for me, do it right. Doesn't matter how long it takes. You know, whether it takes 5 years to become a Champions League side, then so be it. We've been lingering down the bottom of the Premier League for years and had the odd little dip into the Championship and back up again. If it takes that long to get to a Champions League team and establish us there every single year, then that's how long it takes, in my opinion. And if, you know, people are turning around, and I think there's been a few comments in there. City, as Mulv said, they get a quarter of the price. They pay it. Newcastle aren't in that position to do that right now. We can't afford it. We haven't got, you know, the Champions League money coming. We haven't got winning the league type money. We haven't got the commercial revenue that's coming in. We can't just physically turn around and do that. We've got to do it slowly and surely. So for me, it takes as long as it takes. Thanks
for mentioning that money, by the way, because that money doesn't often get referenced in the media, that we do actually win things, and that does generate money. People forget that that we've been, you know, sort of running this league for about 10 years now, and that, you know, you do get money for that. Yeah. It's not just all coming from you know, the Middle East.
Well, definitely.
One more thing. Sorry.
Go for it.
Remember I said earlier about your owners learning from, you know, City's situation. I think they're probably also looking down the road from us at the moment at what's going on at Manchester United, and learning a bit about how not to run a football club. So yeah, I think there's lots of examples if you look around for your lot to learn from.
I'm not being funny. There's a couple of clubs in the Northwest that we're looking at very closely on how not to run a football club. Yeah. Because we're looking at the red side of Manchester, but we're also looking at the blue side of Merseyside as well, in how not to run a football club. And you know, it's a great point, Morgan. It's been well documented on Loaded Mag NUFC. We do cover those things because you're absolutely right. We're, you know, Man City are the blueprint for us. I think Leicester City are to a certain extent as well, with how they built their club, and it's certainly with regards to player recruitment. I think they'll be looking at, and maybe their training ground is probably one of the best in Europe. It is outstanding, and you know, for those reasons, you know, we'll be looking at 1 or 2 clubs as part of our blueprint to try and build the club the way we want to. And I almost feel the 18-month pursuit of Newcastle and our takeover has actually probably helped us, because of our owners have been able to kind of sit back and observe what's been going on with certain clubs and see the demise of Everton and see the demise of Man United, really, and see what not to do. So it has, I think, worked out for the best for us in the long run. There's no doubt about that. But we're going to shift slightly to, obviously, Man City. And look, the Premier League table last season, you were the champions, 93 points. Some people will say over the last 5 years, 93 points is a poor season for Man City. anything below 98s and 99s and the 100 points is not good enough. But look, it was good enough last season. You won You won the league. You just, yes, very much so. Just won the league. But you've got it. And you've got the league title, another league title in the trophy cabinet. And look, you know, in your opinion, do you think that you can win the league again? I'm sure you'd be confident on that. But is it the priority for you this season? What would you say as a fan of Man City? Is the league the priority, or are you looking elsewhere?
Really great question, because this really divides our fan base. Because we're ridiculed for not winning the Champions League yet after spending $1 billion plus. Yeah. So going back to your original question, yes, I think as a fan base we're quite confident this season, especially with the start that we've had and the starts of some of I think what everybody would think our main rivals would be, particularly Liverpool. Dropped points in consecutive matches, and their injuries are piling up. So, I think this season is a bit of a gamble from Guardiola's perspective, in that some very experienced players have left the club, and some younger, more inexperienced players have come in. I'm talking about Sterling leaving, Gabriel Jesus leaving.
I was going to bring them up.
Yeah,
Zinchenko. I don't know how you feel, and I've not got a picture of Zinchenko in there, but these two players in particular, Sterling and Jesus, you know, what are your thoughts about those two players leaving the club? Because I was surprised. I wasn't surprised that you let one of them go. I was surprised you let both of them go. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that will maybe hinder you in the season, or do you think it was time to move those two players on?
I do think it was time. I think there is, scary as it sounds, another level in this Pep Guardiola side, and that is a level of complete ruthlessness. Those two players in particular, usually at the scene of the crime when sitters were being missed over the past few seasons. And while it hasn't cost us too dearly, but we continue to win lots of trophies. But I think Pep thought there was another level of clinical finishing that could be brought in, and that's why you're seeing Haaland and the kid Julian Alvarez coming in. And you think about the players, how effective a clinical finisher, how much more effective that can make somebody like a De Bruyne, Mahrez, Phil Foden, a target man, somebody who is going to bury those chances at a higher rate than a Sterling or a Jesus. So while those two were incredible players for us over a very successful period, I think Sterling saw his game time decreasing and wanted to leave. Jesus similarly. I mean, you bring in Erling Haaland, he's got to play, and that's going to take minutes away from actually both of those players. So good timing for them to move on. Bittersweet because all three, Sterling, Jesus, Zinchenko, incredible men, really likable. Sterling has his critics, usually from rivals. Well, I suppose even amongst the City fan base, but as a dude, great guy, So sad to see them leave, but I think we've brought in, fingers crossed, more clinical players. So hopefully that'll work out.
No, interesting. Like I was surprised that they sold both, but actually from your thoughts and kind of opinions on that, it does maybe make a little bit more sense in terms of how the evolution of Man City is kind of taking shape. Look, I'm going to come to another player here, and we'll move on, because you talked about the evolution of Man City in terms of giving other people a chance, and you mentioned one of those players, Jack Grealish, £100 million signing the season previous. Obviously had his sort of had his season where he won the Premier League, he got that medal. Didn't play a lot of football during that season, has to be said. What do you make of that signing? Do you think this is a really important season in his Manchester United career this season? Manchester City, should I say? I don't know what I'm talking about. Man United. I apologise to you, Manchester City, Corey.
No worries. I think he was probably destined for United, actually, if City didn't pay that release clause.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jack Grealish, another one that divides even the Man City fan base. A lot of money, and people can't seem to get past that fact. I would actually disagree with you, Pete, in that I thought he did play a lot last season. And I thought, in fact, we sort of carried him through the season and actually managed to win the title carrying, a left winger who played a lot. I wouldn't say it was a poor season. It was all right for an attacker in his first year with Guardiola. We've seen with particularly with the attacking players that he's brought in, it takes about a season. It did with Mahrez. It did with Bernardo Silva, Sane to some degree as well. So I've kept my expectations quite low, and I did certainly for his first season. But I agree, it is a big season for him. I think that now that there is a target man in the middle, somebody for him to somebody maybe to take attention away from the wingers. That he needs to be producing more statistically, more assists, more goals, because I think his overall play has been all right, but he hasn't maybe had the numbers to back that up. So I'll be looking at those numbers. I tell you, both him and Mahrez are in a real fight because Phil Foden can play either of those wings, and he's better at it than both of them. So I think the other debate going on about Grealish is whether his future might lie more centrally for us in like the 8 role or a 10 role. So we'll see. So far, okay. But I think the fan base is expecting more from him going forward.
Definitely. And look, we've got our own issues with stats. And stats being making sure that they are lined up. And Richie's already smiling because he knows what we're talking about with regards to Newcastle United. There are certain.
I'm not funny, but the first question about it came in bang on 7:30.
Oh, really?
Straight away. Yeah, we said it would be. We said before the show. This bang on 7:30. The first question for you to look at, mate.
Let's whack it up now. Put it up. Let's put it up now if you got it. And why not discuss it?
It's off David Shepherd. Even the lads just wondered what the Man City lads thought of the ridiculous comments Grealish made about Almiron and if he should be worried about some big Joe retribution on Sunday.
Yes. Now, we were talking about that before we went on air, myself, Richie, and Move. And yes, it is a talking point going into Sunday. The rivalry that is developed over the summer. Those comments that Grealish made disrespectfully, some may say, about Miguel Almiron has definitely, annoyed the Newcastle United fan base, and there seems to be, or they're expecting to be, some sort of reaction on Sunday off the back of that. Richie, what are your thoughts about that potentially kicking into something on Sunday afternoon?
I think Kieran Trippier might be looking to put his England international teammate into the stands, a bit like what someone said before, potentially Big Joe doing it for him as well. But I think that what the issue is for Jack Grealish is he's gone from being a big fish in a small pond at Villa to being a tiny little tiddler in a huge, big sea. That's pretty much the issue with Jack Grealish. And I think the one thing that surprised me is I think he hasn't set the world alight at all at Man City, full stop. I just think he's flattered to deceive. And seeing stuff like that at the celebration, bear in mind how little he's contributed towards it. And as Mo said himself, they pretty much carried him all season. You'd think that Pep would be grabbing a hold of him and saying, look, you've got to book your ideas up here. He's how many videos have we seen even over the summer? It seems to be like he's wanting to be how Gaza was in the 90s, like absolutely pissed more all or whatever. And it just, you just think that he's had his dream move and he's letting potentially his ego and off the field antics scupper it. Because, you know, I think to me, if you're delivering on the pitch, then yeah, if you've got an ego, you can go out and have that ego. You've backed it up on what in your job and your day-to-day life. You know, I think he got away with that a little bit at Villa because obviously, as I said, he was the big fish in the small. Yep. He isn't that anymore. Do you know what I mean? He's got to work 10 times, if not even more, 20 times harder than what he's had to before to stand out in this team. Because I'm not being funny. I think if he has another year like he had last year, I think he'll be on his way.
You know what? I mean, I've got to be honest. You're not the only one to say that, Richie, and I'm inclined to agree with you. But Mo, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's quite harsh in Richie and I's perspective on that, or do you think that there's a genuine chance that Pep might be quite ruthless with that?
I think that's a bit harsh, but I absolutely understand the sentiment. Yeah, he does have a knack of putting a target on his own back. I don't think the fee helps in that regard, but that's not his fault, you know. Yeah, as far as the comments on Miggy, I was just reading about it. I had forgotten about them, to be fair. So he's name dropped him in reference to Riyad Mahrez playing poorly, saying he was playing like Almiron. Is that right?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I remember listening to the video, and he's like, "Almiron, get off the pitch." And he says it like that, and well, it does wind up the Newcastle fans. I've got to be honest with that.
Yeah,
but look, it's a difficult one to navigate how that's going to play out on Sunday. I just want to ask you, Rich, from a Newcastle point of view, from an Almiron point of view, do you think those comments are going to spur him on Sunday? Because what I didn't realise, and what might happen if Grealish plays, and look, we'll get to the tactical board and we'll have a look at this shortly, is that they actually play on the same side of the pitch, because Grealish tends to play down his left and Almiron plays down all right. So they could clash a number of times over the course of the game. And Richie, you already talked about Trippier maybe putting his teammate into the stand. Do you think that's going to spur Miggy on to really kind of kick into gear and maybe prove a point?
Oh, that was shadow of a doubt. I'm not just for Miggy, because you look at the way I think he's had a relatively decent start of the season. He started pre-season, top goal scorer, 6 goals in pre-season, and he's looked a lot more of a threat than the first 2 league games of the season. So it's really made him raise his game as well. He's got a point to prove, but I think it's not just going to incentivize him to have a fantastic game. I think it's going to do it for the whole teammates as well and the crowd. You know, where everyone already says, when the Jaded Park fan crowd behind Newcastle, it's like a 12th man. I think it's going to feel like a 13th man on Sunday if that was a possibility. Do you know what I mean? But I think the issue you've got is on this one. I think I don't think you will be swapping shirts for them at any time on Sunday at all, though. If I'm honest with you, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Grealish is going to have a really, really difficult time. It wouldn't surprise me though if Pep starts him on the bench to take out the firing line. But the other issue you've got with that is if he does start, bring him on for the bench, he's going to have it targeted literally all. What that Gia as he comes on is going to be probably 10 times worse than it was if it's like little G is when his name's mentioned in the starting lineup, or as it's go anytime he touches the ball. So it's you wonder how it's going to be, but I think the Newcastle his teammates will stand up for him on Sunday as well, and I don't think he'll have much space. I just hope we're not ruining this and agree the chance of getting the winner or something like that. Just look at that, that'll be the bloody case, wouldn't it?
To add to that as well, I think War Flags are putting something together. More, if you're not aware, our fan-funded flag display which if you've ever seen it at Newcastle United game, it's outstanding. It's the best in the Premier League without a doubt. They are preparing something for Sunday in support of Mag NUFC. So that they put a tweet out today in kind of the eye emojis as if to say,
I love this.
Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that.
That's why we love this league. This is great.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
Like something like this that was said in a bit of a drunken state by Grealish is now like kind of evolved into this massive talking point between the two. Certainly with the two fan base.
This is not the first time he's abused the Newcastle. Remember when he was at Villa the season before, and they pretty much walked all over us. And he said, was it Shelby heard him just says, just pass it round them, They've got it's easy, and that was obviously when he was last season at Villa. Do you know what I mean? But I think what Eddie Howe might do is, I don't know if anyone's been watching the All or Nothing Arsenal recently, but there was the episode when they played Brentford at home, and obviously Brentford had beat Arsenal for opening game of the season, and then I think it was Arteta had actually saved this tweet from that day for when the Brentford came to the Emirates, and it was a tweet of Ivan Toney, and it says, "Nice little kick about with the lads today," and that was when they beat the first game.
Yeah.
So you're going to start seeing little things like this. You wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Howe does. Well, to be fair, I don't think he needs to, but I think it's the fact it wouldn't. I'd be interested to see if an All or Nothing came about with Newcastle, because obviously there's rumours going on that they're going to do it this year for release next season. If something like that's actually brought about because of what obviously Grealish has said.
Could well be. He might even play the little clip of the video, like you said, in the team discussion where the team tactics or the team meeting before the game on Sunday that might take place on Saturday or wherever. It might be that he plays that video to kind of rile them up. As we were talking about this, I've actually got visions. I don't know what you guys think, and those in the chat as well. I've just got visions of Grealish getting flattened by somebody, Trippier or somebody, and Joe Linton just coming in and just steamboating Grealish and getting the fans right up. Because if you know, Mum, I don't know if you know Joe Linton, but he does love a push and a shove from in a bit of a battle with players. He had one at the weekend. I can't remember who it was with.
So it was Sully March.
Sully March, yeah, that's the one. And sent him to the floor, and it all kicked off, and he just properly stands his ground. He does not mess around at all. And his South American friend, you might want to kind of stick up for him in this situation. But I've just got visions of Joe Linton just doing something not mad that he's going to get sent off, but mad that's going to get the fans right up for it. That's going to kind of really stick the boot in, so to speak, to Grealish.
Tell you what to watch out for, and I think we're all quite interested in this after what happened to Darwin Nunez at the weekend. Interested to see Haaland's first taste of a bit of handbags, to see if he keeps his cool. I mean, he's quite young, yeah, and he's got quite an aloof demeanor. You've seen him in his interviews, right? He's very short and to the point, and but he's struck up quite a friendship with Jack Grealish already. I don't know if you've noticed this. So I think Grealish gets knocked around a bit. It'd be interesting to see Haaland's reaction. Because we don't have the likes of Fernandinho around anymore, keeping everybody, tranquilo. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
Definitely. So Morv is saying there could be a Haaland Joe Linton scrap at some point during the game, protecting their
space.
That's it. Watch this space. That is for sure. At this point now, I don't know if I think we've got a few questions that we've starred for Morv, Richie. I don't know if you want to throw one or two at him.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Ray Burrett for another super stick. It's always appreciated. Everyone that donates towards the challenge, much appreciated. Whether it's a little bit or a big amount doesn't make a difference. We appreciate every single penny. You know, we do this content for free, so it helps the channel grow and stuff like that. So much appreciated. I want to give a shout out to Paul Oxley, who's always been with the channel since we first started. And his dog's actually been on the show, but it's his first birthday today, so I wanted to say happy birthday to Hugo. So there you go, mate. First, real questions off Mag Mark. A fantastic question from Wolf. How do you evaluate NEWFC's transfer business post-PIF Saudi takeover when you compare it to City's early business back in 08-09?
Yeah, sort of hinted at this before. I think it's had to be a bit slower. They haven't quite been able to make the big splash that City did. Of course, City's were some hit and some miss. I actually think Robinho's time at the club was quite underrated. I thought he was actually pretty good. He just didn't have anybody around him. But no, I think things are moving in the right direction for Newcastle. Again, getting the right manager in, first and foremost, was, I think, the most important thing. Again, looking at Manchester United, they've got a decent manager in there, but they haven't got the players to support the type of football he wants to play. So I can only see that heading for disaster. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe loves to play proper football. We've always liked playing his Bournemouth sides because what City face a lot is a lot of low block defending, which has rendered our number 9s quite anonymous in many games. But yeah, back to Newcastle. I think so far so good. I think some of the names being thrown around, I really rate Maddison. You know what? I would try to get Tielemans as well out of Leicester. I really rate him. I wouldn't mind if he was at City, but it looks like maybe Calvin Phillips is that guy instead. So yeah, so far so good. The form, what is it, in the last 12 months? Well, not 12 months, maybe. It's
calendar year with Champions League form on calendar year.
Yeah, long may it continue, just not this weekend.
It's interesting you brought up about the Eddie Howe team and stuff like that and how they're playing. And Yano brings up a really good point as well, that when Newcastle last played City at St James's Park 8 months ago, there's only going to be 4 players from our side that played that day. So it goes to see that obviously the turnover that we've had as the playing staff as well, with the extra quality that's coming in and what's happening, as you just mentioned, in that calendar year since we've pretty much paid it. So it would be nice to see how far we've come in that short space of time. Obviously, we played Liverpool last home game of the season. Was it second last home game of the season, Pete? And we lost only narrowly against Liverpool. And to be fair, it was a bit of a hitty-missy sort of goal from Keita that won the game. So it was, we played really well that way, and Liverpool, got away with one, really. I thought it was a smash and grab, really, sort of thing. So I think that's a good one. It's interesting to see with how far we've developed in that sort of time when we play on Sunday. Johnny Toon for Life as well got a good question here. He says, why did Cucurella not sign for City? Was it purely Brighton asking too much and City thinking that you've got getting your pants pulled down on this occasion?
This is a really good question. I have a few thoughts on this. So my first thought is that City weren't actually in the market for like a number 1 left back. They've got João Cancelo playing in that position at the moment, and it appears to me that he's their first choice left back, even though he's not traditionally a left back. So I think because they weren't looking for a number 1 left back, that the money that Brighton were asking for Cucurella, they couldn't reconcile that, right? They were looking for a backup or at least a rotation guy, and the 50 million plus that Brighton were asking for, I think we just walked away from it. We do walk away from quite a few deals, by the way. Walked away from Kane, walked away from Harry Maguire, Alexis Sanchez, Ronaldo last season. So we don't just buy everybody. We do, we are trying to be sensible about things. But the second thing is and it's about Pep Guardiola. The thing that Pep Guardiola has proven, and particularly as it relates to left backs, is that he can turn anyone into a title-winning left back. He turned Fabian Delph into one. He turned Alexander Zinchenko into one. He could bloody turn Riyad Mahrez into one if he had to. So when it comes to stretching to buy a player at left back, if it's not the right guy and he's not worth that money, Pep will just figure out a solution elsewhere. So, yeah, we haven't really talked about Guardiola much yet, but needless to say, I'm a massive fan.
Talk about him. Let's do it now. Pep Guardiola is, in my opinion, an outstanding manager. I'd put him alongside already the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson, of how good he is. Maybe not got yet the longevity, but is a super talented manager and personality as well. My question for you is, and it might not be the question you want to be asked, but how long do you see him staying at Man City for? Do you see him
great,
staying for long term?
Great question. I think we fear the moment he leaves the club because he's that good. He's sort of the special sauce that makes this whole thing work. The flexibility in the tactics, the ability to attract players of the right mentality. It's gonna be, I think, night and day once he leaves. Obviously financially, with the investment, what have you, and with the project that's been built over the last 10 years, and particularly since Guardiola has joined, whoever the next guy is will be left in a good spot, in a good place. But I don't think they'll be quite as successful as he's been here. So how long could he stay? Well, if you look around Europe, I don't know that there's another job that he hasn't had already that would be that interesting to him, unless he decides he's of a certain age and he wants to go manage internationally. I'd love to see him manage England at one point. But who's out there that would be a tempting project for him, that would make him happier than he already is? He's got all of his mates around him that are in the hierarchy at City, Soriano, Begiristain, etc. He keeps winning. He's got a very young sort of core players there now, particularly Haaland, Foden. I don't think he's going to want to leave those guys. So I can actually see him staying for quite a long time, to be honest.
Jordan Toon for Life just put in the chat. I think
I was just about to say this as well, Pete.
Go for it.
If Xavi does not succeed this season, there's a very big chance he could go back to Barca, because it's not as though he's just taking on a winning team like he had before. They're going through a lot of trouble and strife at the minute, and obviously there's no Messi there as well, and no Neymar as well. So it's a much bigger task for him to actually show the ability of him as a coach. I also like what Paul Oxley said. I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek as well for down the line, but Paul actually said Pep will come to Toon in a few years. Obviously, he had that little relationship with Bobby Robson, if you remember, anyone's ever watched the Bobby Robson documentary. And he absolutely worshipped the ground, and he actually wanted to come and play for Newcastle. He asked Bobby Robson whether he would sign him as well. So, it's one of those things we'll see on that one. But I think the Barca one's probably more the realistic one of the two, though.
It'd be about building Barca again, isn't it? Because Barca are literally been on their knees the last few years, losing Messi and obviously their financial situation. And, whether he would see that maybe as a new project and building the club that he left really at the top of the mountain. When he left to go to Bayern, he left them at the top. Will he want to rebuild them again? But it's an interesting point that Paul said, actually, because it is, as Newcastle build and their sponsorships build and the amount of money we're allowed to spend builds, would that be a project that he sees viable in the future? It's one to definitely keep an eye on. But as we're kind of diverting now into game day and thinking about the actual match day, and everything that's going on with that, I think it's about time for some stats, and those that watch us regularly know what time that is.
What is that?
I was watching Will's reaction all the way through that, and he's just laughing.
I like magic. He appears. 00 Stato, keep roll. How are you doing this evening?
Evening, lads. Evening, Pete, Richie, and evening,
Keith.
Noisy Neighbour as well.
Cheers.
You know what? I was just thinking there, just the reaction there. We should really have a compilation of all the reactions to everybody wants to, all the guests as soon as they hear that theme kick in. Yeah,
Definitely. I love it.
We'll get Daz on it.
You're right. But look, we're building to the big game Sunday. We mentioned it earlier, the two teams that haven't conceded a goal in the Premier League yet in the 22-23 season. But I'm sure there's many other stats out there, Keith. What have you got for us this week?
Yeah, I was going to say there, you've stole me thunder and stole one of the stats there, because I was just going to say that is one of the positive stats for Newcastle fans going into this fixture. Both Manchester City and Newcastle are the only sides yet to concede a goal in the Premier League this season, which is brilliant for both teams. Great start for both. I'm going to try and stay positive but realistic in these stats, because Newcastle's record against Man City in the Premier League since 93-94, played 44, won 8, drawn 8, and lost 28. The number of goals in this fixture as well in the Premier League, 132-92 for Man City and 40 for Newcastle. And Man City as well have got the best defensive record out of the two, 20 clean sheets to Newcastle's 8. Now, we all remember this fixture. January 2019 was the last fixture Newcastle won against Man City 2-1, Matt Ritchie getting the winner. Unfortunately, Newcastle have only won one. That's the only one fixture they've won in 29 Premier League games against Manchester City. And in Manchester City's last 5 league games, in 3 of those, they've won 5 in a row. In 3 of those, they've scored a minimum of 4 goals. Home and away, really. Top goal scorers in recent fixtures, João Cancelo and Riyad Mahrez, 2 goals each. Now, here's some good news against Newcastle, because in recent years, the top goal scorers, Sergio Aguero, 15 goals, and Raheem Sterling, 7 goals, no longer play for Man City. So that's a positive start. Callum Wilson, he's got 1 goal and 1 assist in 7 games against Man City in games he's played. Since the start of November, I thought this was an interesting stat. November 2021, Man City have only lost 1 Premier League game in 30. They've won 25, they've drawn 24, and they've lost 1. And that 1 game was against Tottenham in February 3-2. So that just goes to show you what a run Man City have been on. And Pep Guardiola, his record against Newcastle, he's played 11, he's won 9, he's drawn 1, and he's lost 1. And Eddie Howe, unfortunately, we all believe in how we trust, but against his record against Manchester City, he's managed 12, he's won none, he's drawn none, and he's lost 12. So that run's got to end soon. Hopefully it'll be this weekend. Hopefully we'll at least get a point. And also Guardiola as well, in matches that he's managed against teams against Eddie Howe, he's won all 10 as well. So again, that record has to go soon. Mikel Arteta, remember last season, I was undefeated in games he'd played for Arsenal and managed against Newcastle for Arsenal last season, and that run went at the end of the season. Hopefully again, Guardiola's will go soon as well.
We can only hope, Keith, and I like that. I like the fact that he ended on that little bit of positivity. That the record has to end at some point. Look, Richie, you've heard the stats. Some of them are not great reading, but what are your initial thoughts going into this game on Sunday?
Do you know what I want to touch on? Two things that Keith brought up. One, we've got the best defense we've had in a long time. Full stop. We've discussed this before from the start. Look at the end of last season. I think we conceded. I think it was 19. I think in 20 goals for the second half of last season in the Premier League. However, 9 of them came in 2 games. So you look at the rest of the game and the amount of clean sheets that Newcastle have had in there. We're not used to having that many clean sheets, and obviously we've strengthened the back line. Over the summer as well, bringing Botman in. And you've got to remember that clean sheet record at the end of the season, we barely had Kieran Trippier for that as well. So, you've got an extra 50% stronger back four potentially on that. If he was to play Botman, obviously there's rumours that Target could be back in, which I know we'll probably get into when we pick in the side, because he's going to have a headache anyhow on Sunday if Target's fit, because Byrne didn't do anything wrong there on Sunday. But also the other fact that obviously Eddie Howe's got an absolutely abysmal record against Man City. However, he probably hasn't had as good a side to go up against against Man City as well. You look at some of the caliber of the players, the amount of internationals Newcastle have got now. And as I've said, the defenses have come on. You look at the midfield, we're really strong on that. But I still think, and I think every Newcastle fan will probably agree with us on this, our weakness, and it's probably something that might come against us on Sunday, is the fact that our activity in the final third. We haven't got that killer instinct really bar Callum Wilson, and sometimes it's actually getting the ball to him so he can actually show his killer instinct as well sometimes. So I think that I'm trying to put on a positive for Newcastle, and looking at that, records are always made to be broken. And the fact that Eddie Howe's in the strongest position he's ever been in to do something against City, then that's something I'm taking into Sunday's game.
Don't underestimate it as well, and I'm sure none of us would anyway. But we talked about war flags before. Don't underestimate the fact that Eddie Howe, for the first time, is going up against Man City at St James's Park with not only 52,000 fans, but 52,000 fans that are 120% behind him and the players and the club for the first time in 15 years. They are going to be bang up for it. Even Steve Bruce got a 2-2 draw against Man City at home a couple of years ago when Shelby scored that rasper in the far corner to equalise late on. And that was generated by the fans. Shelby was quite honest in his assessment of that. Is it the fans kept them going that day? With the fan base how it is now, it will definitely be. And Richard alluded to earlier on the show, the 12th or maybe even the 13th man. That is for sure. But look, from your perspective, Move, what are you expecting? Are you just expecting to have this Man City train come in, steamroller us and keep motoring on, or do you see there might be a little bit of a kind of a bump in the road potentially at St James's Park?
So this might seem quite obvious, but my advice to Newcastle would be to score first. City have had real trouble clawing back once they go behind in recent years. So a lot of teams will try to defend deep against Man City, knowing that they're probably not going to have too much of the ball. And what we've learned is that eventually City get through. So my advice would be come out of the blocks, very aggressive, try and score first, convert your chances, and hope that City don't convert theirs. And that's very basic. I'm not not giving away too much here, but yeah, once City get the lead, they tend to turn the control, those gears on, and it's really hard to win the ball. You talked about getting in the final third. We don't let teams get in the final third. We sit in their half and just control the ball. So if you do find yourselves there, make sure you finish and be the first ones to finish. That would be my advice.
Callum Wilson, You've heard it here first. Friend of the channel, no doubt he's watching tonight. Callum, you've heard from all Man City fan. Get that goal first, son. You know what you need to do. That is for sure. And look, you know, we'll get you. What we'll do now is get your opinion on the sort of starting lineup, and Keith, from a Newcastle perspective, I want to get your opinion of the Newcastle lineup on here. So I will share the tactics board with you guys. I've done the lineup that I think might be the lineup on Sunday, but I'm sure there'll be elements of discussion with this. So hopefully you can see that on the screen. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So look. I've got your opinion on who you think might be the starting 11 at the weekend. Does that formation and how I've set those players out look about right? And how do you think Man City could potentially win the game?
So this is how it looks on paper. Yeah, with Guardiola, that Cancelo is going to be well up on the left wing. That
so it could be like
in recent games, Walker will probably tuck in and play as a midfielder, actually. So it's tough for a man who likes things to be very symmetrical to watch Guardiola play, because he's the most asymmetrical manager I've seen. What it'll do is it'll force everything down the left, play Cancelo high. Walker will tuck in as sort of a safety net in midfield.
So would it be almost like a sort of a 3 here?
Very much.
Maybe a little bit like a 10.
It'll be a 2-3-5, exactly how you've got it there.
Okay.
And he'll have to make a decision on how defensive he thinks Eddie Howe's going to be. And the reason I say that is because I think that's how he decides whether to play Gundogan, who's been in great form, versus Bernardo Silva. I've gone with Gundogan because I expect Eddie to defend more than he usually does. And the reason he picks Gundogan in a sort of tight, more defensive game is because he picks the lock better around the final third than Bernardo does. He likes Bernardo against the very expansive teams like Liverpool, just for the ground he covers, and he really helps Rodri out in the midfield. But I've gone with this. This is in fact the same exact 11 that started last week. He brought Foden. Foden off at halftime and Grealish on. But this is what I would expect. I would expect City to control possession and just try to get the ball to Haaland as much as possible.
Keith, I'll come to you. I've obviously set the Newcastle team up again. It will look familiar, apart from maybe one or two slight changes that we've come to see. I've obviously put Botman in starting ahead of Dan Burn. Would you agree with that lineup? Is there anything that you maybe change slightly, and what are you expecting from the Newcastle team on Sunday?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I would expect it. To be honest, that's pretty much the strongest lineup. I just think, solid at the back. Try and push on up front there. You've got your ASM, you've got Almiron there on the wings. They're supporting Wilson. And that's pretty much your starting 11 at the minute, isn't it, really? I mean, if Newcastle were, let's say, I'm going up ultra optimistic here, let's say they did get an early goal through Wilson, and you had your back four defending well, and let's say they got a half-time 1-0, would you look at some stage in the second half to bring maybe a Burn on or something like that to make it into a back five to, try and put that wall to see out the result, maybe even?
Yeah, potentially. We to be fair, we talked about this last week. Is that the potential there? I put Botman front and centre. That you could bring them in as a back four and maybe take Willock out of that scenario. And what you do there is maybe you could maybe make it into that back four. You push those two guys on. What you may even do, they may even tuck Almiron in, because Almiron has played there before. And what you do is you're playing that formation. You have ASM up alongside Wilson as that potential formation. That could be an option later on. I think we'll see more of a fluid kind of formation from Eddie Howe. But look, Richie, from your perspective, I'm going to go back to how I set it up originally. You know, looking at the team that Mulvey's put out and how their formation is set currently, where do you see Newcastle, causing some issues for Man City?
I think we all know that we're probably obviously not going to have much of the ball on Sunday. I think we're probably going to have to rely on counter attacks quite a lot here. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the one thing I looked at straight away, if Mull's right and Ake plays, we've got to remember that Wilson and Ake will know each other very, very well. And I believe that, I think Wilson could probably know his weaknesses and get the better of him. I think that's the weak point there. If like the only positional change possibly someone can move, I'm still torn about whether Willock will play or not. It might be one where, and I think Paul Oxley brought it up in the chat as well, it might be a game where we go a little bit more defensively solid in the middle and possibly have Sean Longstaff there and push Bruno a little bit further forward to try and create something, because we know he can get forward as well. Or if he's going to do the counter attack, like we say, then he obviously might decide to go with Willock, because obviously he's got the leg to get us up the pitch. But if Ake does start, I've got to admit, I think that's the weak point there. I think Wilson will have his number all day long. It's just whether we can create something and give Wilson the opportunities to capitalise on that weakness.
With Move saying that, Walker tends to tuck in as one of those midfield three. To be fair, Sky talked about that against Man City first game of the season, and I did see that while watching that game, that he was really, really tucked into that midfield. Do you think that could give the license for ASM, who we know doesn't like to get back here and support target and likes to stay high up here? Do you think Walker could be taking a chance here in allowing ASM that sort of space and then run directly in on Diaz there, particularly on counter-attacks where ASM can be at his dangerous best?
He could do, yeah. But I think obviously Walker's going to have to probably be disciplined when he's going to obviously go tuck in and when he drops back. We know Walker's fast. He's got the speed. He's shown it on numerous times when he's obviously been at Spurs, at Man City, and obviously with England. But obviously, this is the sort of thing where I hope he underestimates ASM, if that makes sense, because obviously we know on his day ASM can be absolutely world-beaten. And let's just hope he has one of those days on Sunday, because he's going to have a world-beaten game on Sunday if we've got to stand any chance of beating the City. If he has one of his normal games, Walker's probably going to tuck in all day long and just, help control that centre of the park. If ASM can raise his game to what we can do, obviously, and get Walker on the back foot as well, then obviously that's our benefit and a bonus for us. The fact that they're having to make tactical changes to stop us, not the other way around, where we're having to possibly make tactical changes to control the game and stop Man City. As we develop as a team, we're going to have to start playing against the big six, a bit like we did with we did against Arsenal at the end of the season. Arsenal didn't know what hit when they played us. We're going to have to start taking games, and we can't look at teams like Man City, Liverpool, and think, oh, it's a free hit. We're going to have to start trying to play our game. And, if people like Bruno and Joe Linton and Botman, and these people are going to be the ones who are going to be playing them for the next years to come. Yeah. So we need to start getting a routine with them and start, trying to get positive results against them, because we can build on the positive results against them going forward as well. So ASM is actually going to be a huge figure on Sunday for this, to see whether we can actually get anything out of this game.
No,
I would say if Guardiola sniffs that Saint-Maximin is going to be a problem, he'll switch Walker and Cancelo, not flanks, but he'll let Walker roam around Saint-Maximin, and then he'll tuck Cancelo in instead. So he keeps the midfield numbers and maybe sacrifices a bit on the left wing, but that would allow Walker to sort of put the clamps, so to speak, on Saint-Maximin.
See, that could work in Newcastle's favour if he does that as well, because then it gives them Trippier a bit more of a licence to potentially get forward and put more balls into the box, because he is the better crosser out of probably the best crosser we've got on the team, full stop, who's actually on there. Because obviously Almiron, he gets down the flank, and then because he's left-footed, he tends to cut back, and obviously that allows, especially if we're playing on the counter-attack, that's giving people time to get back, and just it basically counters the counter-attack, really, because you're not hitting them on the break, so to speak. So potentially giving Trippier that extra space for the overlap from Almiron, that could work well if Cancelo tucks in, because he's not going to know who to go to who, sort of thing. So, we can see it tactically how we can potentially be doing it, just whether we can deliver it on the park on Sunday.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the one thing about our right hand side is they love to get forward. They're not the greatest defensively. I wasn't on the reaction show for the Brighton game, but one of the things I noticed is Brighton got a lot of joy in this section here, in between Shaw and Trippier. Trippier was caught time and time again during that game, and actually. And it wasn't really talked about because we were dominant against Forest. He got caught a number of times in here as well. So that would be one of my worries with regards to where the likes of Foden, if he plays in that area and he makes those little runs in here, could maybe expose us. But equally, like you said, if they do, like most teams do, want to stop ASM and they pull Walker over there and Cancelo comes in as a midfielder, they have got an issue here, because he is one hell of a winning runner. And I think if he gets in a position where he's one-on-one with Ake, I think Almiron can beat him, and on more than one occasion. And Trippier's got the ability to find that ball down that side. We saw it against Forest time and time again. There's one or two concerns for me, and then I've got a question for Richie and Keith, really. My concern is that I've set out this team the way it is. Rodri's not necessarily going to move too far from this point. Cancelo may tuck in here. That might push Gundogan over there. But the same thing happens again, is that Wilson is then isolated. You look potentially the way which we're going to set up, how separate Wilson is from the rest of the team. Now, he isn't against the back three this time like he was against Forest and Brighton, but we need to get guys up, and I think there's a big role for Willock here from a box-to-box point of view to do that job and work off the ball. He showed it against Forest and he was excellent in that game, but he needs to get back to that to be able to support and get into the box. Now, the one question I've got for you is about this man. Now, Morv will know how, I think we all know how dynamic and devastating Kevin De Bruyne can be. But I've got a question for you, Richie and Keith, is that could there be something in this game tactically where we do this and we shift the play? So we've got someone that can match Kevin De Bruyne's running and physicality to maybe stop him playing. I know there's been conversations we've had in the past about the potential of Joe Linton doing a job for a game or two in this position here. And that maybe allows Bruno, with his passing ability, to exploit those spaces. Yeah. Do you think there's a possibility of that, or do you think that's not going to be within Eddie Howe's thinking? Or do you think we need to go that? Are you comfortable with Bruno being the guy to maybe chaperone and maneuver Kevin De Bruyne? What are your thoughts about that?
Go on, Keith, I'll let you go first, mate.
I think really, if you look at this, and Richie here was talking really well earlier there about hinting at changing the mentality in games like this. Sometimes you've got to try and roll the dice and try something new. And I think looking at that team and the conundrum of getting the ball to Wilson in those positions, I think one of the opportunities there would be for Bruno to move about and try and move forward like he has done with success in those games towards the end of last season, like against Leicester, late on in games like that, that almost like a false nine type of role, really, where nobody expects it. This is the game for that, really. I think I'd have more faith in Bruno doing that than Joe Linton doing that. Joe Linton's more strength is more the combative, breaking up play, breaking things down. He could frustrate De Bruyne, so why not go for that and favour Bruno in more of that role to get the ball to Wilson, to get the ball to ASM.
Yeah, get the ball. Richie, what are your thoughts?
I think that highlights what we've known for what we need in the window. Do you know what I mean? We need. I think ideally you'd want Bruno and Joe Linton back there, and and have the creative player we're looking for. What we've discussed so far, we mentioned it again before we started when we were talking about the rumours about Bruno being a target for Real Madrid and obviously what costs and stuff. Bruno can do everything in that middle. He can sit, he can play a number 8, he can play a number 10. He can do everything in that midfield role. Now, I've often wondered, obviously, with Joelinton, could he be like a defensive linchpin in that of the three? You could possibly play him as a double pivot, or you could even convert him to a CDM because he likes to be able to read the game. He likes the game in front of him. I think that's one of the reasons why he struggled being the number 9, because a lot of the time when Newcastle played, he had his back to the goal. Obviously, the game is behind him. He's having to make him. You can't see what's going on behind him. He's not that type of player. He likes to be able to see where the spaces are to run into, where to pass the ball into, where people are making runs to. And I think that would suit him better. And I think this is where the concern is it's who's the third midfielder is going to be, which is going to be critical on Sunday. Because we also know that obviously Willock's got the legs to possibly get in there, but he doesn't seem to time these runs as well as Bruno does on that sort of front.
Going forward. Yeah.
As we said, I can't remember who said, but you look at the Leicester game, and the dying minutes, the 94th minute, and who's that one that's making the winner? Yes, okay, Willock was the guy putting the ball in, but you saw that dynamic run that Bruno, he made everything to get on to the end of it, didn't he? So, I think whoever he decides to go to probably try and get close to De Bruyne or Joelinton or Bruno, they're going to have to really keep an eye on him because he can create something out of nothing. So whoever it is, but obviously, you look at Longstaff's development into a good player as well, where he can hold up and break up play. He did it quite a lot last season. He's done it in pre-season as well. I thought he was excellent when he played against Arsenal. He was breaking it up in their final third as well. Sorry, in our final third was they were trying to break out, and obviously, I think we've used this as an example before for Bruno's goal. He won the ball back as they tried to break, made the lovely little deft chip through for Wilson. That Ramsdale saved, and obviously Bruno put the rebound in. So it would be good to see whether he's also got that ability to make a run, but also if we're not able to get into the box, he's probably our most naturally gifted player who can shoot from range at this moment in time. We know that Bruno is capable, but you've seen what Sean Longstaff can deliver. Given half a yard from about 20, 25 yards out, he's capable of something special. It might take something special on Sunday to break them down. So there's a lot of possibilities in there. Seth and Mags brought up Ryan Fraser as well. You look at when obviously they came up the last time, and obviously we got beat. There was that pivotal moment where how on earth, still to this day, that Edison did not give a foul away for taking Fraser out. I don't know. Because it was the most blatant penalty you'll ever see. Obviously, that's it to be a month of refereeing. Diabolical. We even did a show about it, for Christ's sake. The referee decisions we had against us in December alone, was enough to rule out for the whole season. It was appalling. But Fraser caused problems a little bit as well. So it would be like he might get involved somewhere if he's fit. Provide, I think he has more threat than what Murphy does. Going forward as well. And longevity with this squad as well. So there's a few interesting little things we can do, but be interesting to see how he goes. I don't know what you think on that, Pete, though.
No, I think that's an interesting point regarding Fraser. And look, I've mentioned Fraser, and I've just put him here. Could it be that ASM starts off the bench and becomes an impact player to ensure that tactically we have two kind of wingers as such, or inside forwards that are getting forward and have got their work rate to get back to support here their fullback, and then later on in the game when Man City may be tiring and the game opens up a little bit more, you then bring on ASM fresh, full of energy, that would be able to just run here and cause some problems there. That could be one of those situations. But the Longstaff situation that you talked about, I thought was an interesting one. I mentioned at Turf Moor last game of the season how fluid this midfield three were. Obviously, Joelinton then went off. Miggy for a short period went into this situation here, but it was very fluid, and he allows that fluidity. And the reason being is that he can play here, he can play here, but he can play here. There's only really Bruno and Longstaff that have played in this sitting role, which is such a crucial role in the team. And as we've talked about it, Longstaff here could allow Bruno to play in this little role here and get forward and do everything that we know Bruno has done in the last 8, 9, 10 months at Newcastle United. So it's an interesting situation, and it's a very, very fluid situation that I think could unravel as the game goes on Sunday. More final thoughts from you with regards to anything tactical, Man City related? You know, is there, could there be some changes late on that could affect Newcastle? Is there a change in stance? You talked about, is it Julian Alvarez who could come in potentially here that could create some problems here? Is there anything you want to add?
I tend to agree with you pinpointing that space between Cancelo and Ake as an area to attack. Cancelo positionally, he's not a left back. He does get caught upfield quite a bit, and somebody mentioned it in the chat about timing of the runs from your forwards. That's going to be critical if you're counterattacked. If you can get a perfect timing between whoever ends up with it and the winger, I think you'll be in good shape, particularly down the side where Ake and Cancelo are. That being said, Ake's probably been our best defender so far this season. I know it's only 2 games, but he's in because Laporte is injured. These 2 defenders that I'm predicting start, Ake and Diaz, are probably our weakest in terms of playing the ball out from the back. So look for more of our forwards to check in and try to help them progress the ball forward. So I think that's to your advantage, that it's not Stones and Laporte, because they'll pick you apart from pretty deep. If you can get a nicely timed ball into somebody who sneaks in behind Cancelo or Walker, that's probably your best chance there. But again, take the lead, and I think that it's game on if Newcastle gets the lead against us. I think the opposite is true though, and somebody mentioned this in the chat. If City score first, it could be over at that very moment. So I love this, by the way. It's like chess.
Right. No, we love getting the tactics board out when it comes to the away days preview, because although we like to discuss, and we have, Keith and Richard made some great points about how Newcastle could affect the game and what we might see from a Newcastle perspective, it's always good to know what the opposition may do and how that could affect our game, and what it is from a tactical point of view that Newcastle need to be thinking about. And sometimes, and I say sometimes, more often than not, we do see some of the things that are discussed from both sets of supporters unfold during the match days, and see those things unfold. And I think it's quite nice to discuss them, but also see them kind of come to fruition in kind of in-game situations. So great stuff there with regards to the tactics board, and it'll be out every week now in the build-up to the season. Jordan Toon for Life's put in there just before we start to wrap up. He's put, what's wrong with John Stones? John Stones, I think everyone on Loaded Mag NUFC was a player that I kind of pinpointed I would have liked to have signed for Newcastle and had in our back four when the takeover first happened. But coming into a new season, he's on the bench. Ake's ahead of him. What's going on there? Why is he not starting, and does he have a future at Man City?
Yeah, actually, Nathan Ake is what's wrong with John Stones. He's been brilliant, and I think Pep prefers a left foot, right foot combination in the centre backs. The other thing, unfortunately, John Stones couldn't make the trip to the States for pre-season. I think it was a jab issue. Hadn't had his jabs, so he couldn't come over. So he's a bit behind everybody else in terms of his fitness. So he did sneak it on for, I think, the last half hour at the weekend, so I think they are preparing to return him to his starting spot. But I wouldn't say anything's wrong with him. I think that honestly, I think we might have the best 4 centre backs in Europe depth wise, and he'll get his chance, but he's playing with 3 other really good ones, so I don't think any City fans are worried about his long-term future.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Just before we get to predictions, are there any sort of questions, any comments in there, Richie, before we sort of get the predictions of what people think?
No, not really. The only thing I was supposed to say, another shout out to Russell Thompson for a donation to the channel. As we said before, much appreciate every single penny is appreciated, whoever donated. So, no, just straight up to your predictions, Pete.
Excellent. So, look, it is the game on Sunday that everyone's talking about. Look, I'll go around the houses first and foremost. Richie, I'll start with you. What are you expecting from this game today at the weekend? And what is your prediction?
I think the one thing I'm expecting goals. Full stop. I'm just hoping we're involved in them as well. At some points we haven't been in the last few times we've played Man City. All being said, seriously though, Newcastle at this moment in time is a different beast to what it has been since Man City have been before. Liverpool struggled when the KLP at the end of the season. Arsenal were torn apart. I'm not saying we're going to tear Man City apart by any stretch of the margin, but I think I'd like to see us try and give them a game and take it to them. I don't know. I for some reason, I've just had 2-2 in my mind all week, and I'm going to stick with it. And I think Miggy's going to get a goal at some point as well.
Oh, the stadium's going to...
You're seeing Robin Grealish up there, can't you? When he scores the winner, mugging him off.
Can you imagine that? He scores.
I can just imagine him taking his shirt off and running straight up to Grealish, doing that or something in his face, can't you?
Or doing a hard.
Or on the bench, if he's on the bench.
Doing a messy with his shirt, just like that. Almiron right in front of his face.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you can imagine that. The roof would literally get lifted off St. James's Park if he got a goal. Mulv, what are your thoughts? Are you thinking it's going to be another Man City victory, or do you think it might be a little bit tighter than that?
Well, I think the first half will be tight. I think it'll be 0-0 at half time, and then I think it'll end up 3-0 City, Jack Grealish hat trick. So.
Oh my
God. No,
I take it to roles reversal. He's going to take his shirt off and hang it up and put the Almiron's face, is he?
No, honestly, I can see Newcastle scoring. I think probably attacking wise, yeah, the forward line is probably the toughest we've faced so far. I do think that the Ake Cancelo link is a bit suspect and could be gotten at. So I wouldn't like to think Newcastle will score 1 goal, but I think they will. But ultimately, I think City will have too much, and it'll be 2 or 3-1. I'll go with 3-1 City.
3-1 City. Interesting. Keith, what are your thoughts? I know you're quite sort of on the fence sometimes with your predictions, but are you thinking that Newcastle could spring a surprise this time?
I just want them to play better than they did this time. Against City last year at St. James's 4-0. We have to think that was rock bottom. That was like ground zero. That was rock bottom just before Christmas. Really, we're in that run and we're looking to turn it around and get something going. If anything would be an improvement on that for me, and I want to see a goal. At least. So maybe a 2-1 or something like that. I just think what surprised me after the Community Shield, and I know we shouldn't read too much into the Community Shield, but I was expecting a bit more with City being in transition to, not be there yet. But the first 2 games, they've blown them away. They've blown the 2 teams away, really. And Haaland looks like he was settled in, particularly in the first game effortlessly. I just think, trying to hold them out and the lack of creativity from Newcastle at the top end might catch them out, really. And that's why I think I'm going 2-1 here to Man City. I hope I'm wrong. I would love a point. I'd love a 1-1. I'd even be more over the top if it was a 1-0 to Newcastle, because it's been a year since City have lost away in the Premier League. The last game lost away from home was at Spurs last year, 1-0 on the opening day of the season. But I just think City will just edge it, but I'm hoping that, tapping into what Richie was saying there earlier, Newcastle are going to play it differently. They're going to have a different mentality, and they could really give Newcastle City a game, and it could maybe even be in the lead for a long part of the game. That, to me, would be a much more improved, and I would feel a lot happier with that, even if they got beat.
I think that's more than fair. I think the one thing we haven't got is Kieran Clark gifting a goal in the first few minutes to Man City. That's the one thing we can't do is gift goals away, and we certainly did that the last time. From Bees in the chat, don't mind losing as long as we don't get thrashed. And look, Keith, that's exactly what you've just been alluding to. I actually think. Yeah, I'm very similar to Richie. I was in my mind. I've got 1-1. I've got 1-1. I actually see Man City scoring first and Newcastle equalising. That's kind of the way in which I see it. I'm just of that mindset, but I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I think it's going to have a lot of talking points in the game. But I just think that I think Newcastle are really going to go out and try and cause City some problems. And you know what? It's weird because I'm actually looking forward to this game. We've got nothing to lose as Newcastle United fans. We're expected to lose the game. So why not go out and give the team, our absolute best. And try and ruffle some feathers against Man City, because a lot of teams don't do that. They'll just turn up and just expect to get beaten and just roll over. I don't expect Newcastle to do that at all.
That would be my advice. Give it a go.
Yeah, I agree. But look, Mulv, just before I'll let you go before we get to the sponsors. But Mulv, absolute pleasure to have you on. Really, really good to chat to you. Fantastic knowledge on all things football, Man City, Newcastle as well. Best of luck for the rest of the season after Sunday. And look, in the return fixture, it'd be great to get you back on to talk.
Absolutely.
Man City and Newcastle. But before you go, just plug your podcast and where we can find you.
Yeah, we're Noisy Neighbours. Somebody asked in the chat about there not being a U in there. That's because we're American-based. Me and my podcast partner, we live in Texas. So as you can probably tell, I'm not from Texas. I was born in Manchester, but moved over here many years ago. But yeah, we're Noisy Neighbours. Mostly a podcast. We do have a YouTube channel. We do mostly call-in shows on that, where people will call in and have a chat. Yeah, we're at Noisy Pod on Twitter. Catch up with us there. Thank you all for this. This was really, really a good time. Thank you.
Absolute
Pleasure
pleasure.
having you.
Yeah, pleasure, Mulv, and everyone in the chat has said exactly the same. But you take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Ta-ra, lads. Thank you.
Cheers, Mulv.
That's brilliant. Great to have Mulv on. Absolutely spot on. And we love to get that opposition opinion in the build-up to our next games. But look, we're at that time. We've done our predictions. However, we have to always give out a shout to the sponsors. And the sponsors this week have been fantastic in support of everything Loaded Mag NUFC. So first and foremost, Shyburns, www.shyburns.com. If you haven't had a look on their website, their gear is absolutely fantastic. Lots and lots of different things available. Simon's always in the chat showing support to the channel. Was in the chat last night, showed support in promoting the show tonight as well. So get onto that website, check it out. I'll even put it up again so you can see that as well. Pins and Prints. Thanks to Pins and Prints for everything and your support to the channel as well. They've got some new prints on there, some new pins on there. The Craig Bellamy Feyenoord moment is one that kind of stuck out for me, and I was like, wow. It's just kind of brought me back to the moment I was watching it on ITV and I saw that goal fly in. But yeah, those pins are available. Obviously, the classic Ben Arthur and the Trippier against Everton. there is a new one available. As they anticipated, they toyed with the fact that something was coming. It's there. Fabian Shaw against Nottingham Forest, a fantastic print of that wonder goal that was smashed into that top corner past Dean Henderson. But lots and lots of other things as well. You can see the classic Peter Beardsley away strip there. Lots of things. Eddie Howe. I've even got some other clubs in there as well. The classic Ferdinand and Shearer, as well as the mix and match kits that are available there from Prince and Prince. Get my words out. NUFC or Retro NUFC. Again, huge supporters of the channel. They've actually got this new kit available from Friday, from tomorrow. The old classic Newcastle Brown Ale McEwen's Lager with Genola 14 on the back. Get involved.
Oh, you do realise you're going to be pulled there, Pete. It's Brown Ale, not McEwen's Lager.
Oh, why did I say McEwen's Lager?
I don't know, but
you know what? It's because I've got the McEwen's Lager, so I've got that in my mind. It is the Newcastle Brown Ale.
Pete.
Thank you for correcting me on that. But it's
you do realise if Dad was on, you'd kick you off the show now, don't you?
Yeah, you probably would. But yeah, I'm glad he's not on. So it means we can roll on with it. But actually, this week, Retro NUFC, this is their sales week. So 20% off all orders on the website. Ends 1 minute to 6 on Friday. Discount automatically added at the checkout. So if you're interested, whether that's involved in the Genola kit, I'm not too sure. But definitely worth checking that out. NUFC memorabilia.com. And of course, Machine House. Fantastic gear. This hoodie, I keep saying I'm going to get it, and I will. 110% is some fantastic gear on there from Machine House. Brilliant sponsor of the channel. Great to have them as an addition to Loaded Mag NUFC. So if you haven't checked out all their gear, please do and show your support to our sponsors as well. If you haven't been a member yet, and we had a new member tonight, and we've had a number of new members over the course of the week, become a member. If you come onto this screen, the blue button where it says join, click that button, $1.99 a month, and join and become a member of the Loaded family. We had another 30 subscribers join us just in the last 24 hours after last night's show and into today. If you are not a subscriber to the channel, make sure you're a subscriber. Click that subscribe button and the thumbs up if you're there as well on your way out. Click that thumbs up. It means so much to the channel. We are well on the way to 4.5K, going on to 5K. That is our target. So please support us in that as well. Anything from you, Richie?
Just to go back to the sponsors, just the ticker going along the bottom there. Obviously, with Shy Burns, Pins and Prints, and NUFC memorabilia, if you use the discount code Loaded Mag, you automatically got 10% off any purchase. Not a one-off; it's any purchase. As many times as like, we're proud to say that Martin Machine House has now decided to do a discount code for yourselves as well. So once you get your sign-up discount code, you can use that the first time, but anytime after that, just put Loaded Mag in the discount code, you'll get 10% off any purchase that you make on their website. Also, we appreciate Martin joining the rest of the sponsors and doing that. And he's also getting the stock in for the Loaded giveaways as well soon. So we have to keep an eye out for that one as well. Make
sure you do. Yes. Thank you, Seth Don Mag. It was brown ale. I apologize. Richie pointed out to me. Yeah, too many shows this week. I think I'm just merging into one. But look, we have to give a massive thanks to George Hayes again. Me and Rich feel like we're doing it all the time, but we do massively appreciate your donation to the channel. $50. Thank you for your fantastic super sticker. Really, really do appreciate it. Your support for the channel is massive, along with all the other donations, of course, tonight as well. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Fingers crossed for some points on the board come Sunday evening. Keith, pleasure as always for you joining us for away days, and your stats are absolutely spot on. In the chat, he said you're the best stat man around, and look, we cannot disagree with that.
Andre is the best. Andre is the best in YouTube land, and there's plenty of others as well.
There's only one loaded stato, and it is 100% Keith. And that's all that matters for us on Loaded Mag NUFC. But look, guys, we'll leave it there. You all take care. Have a fantastic week or end of the weekend. We will speak to you soon. And of course, we do love playing away. You guys take care. Have a good one.
Good night.